Hey friends, thanks for stopping by. I decided to try this wood as a charcoal for making your own homemade black powder. This particular wood is what we call barberry. In the spring it puts off a very edible leaf. In the summertime when the leaves get hard they become very picky and non-edible, but it puts off a berry which becomes very edible. A lot of the locals like making jam out of it, and I can also tell you that the black bears love it also. The wood itself is diffuse porous like maple, so I thought that I would just char this up and grind it up and see how it's going to react as a gunpowder. So stay tuned. Probably the next portion of this video I will show by comparison what it looks like side by side with the willow. Well, since the wind has calmed down a little bit, I thought I would come out here and give you bird's eye view of what the barberry is. You can see it does grow quite tall. I hope the camera can kind of show. Now this particular barberry tree right here was a recent victim of a fire. That's why the leaves are looking kind of yellow and dead. But they do grow right alongside and entangle themselves with the junipers. So I think you can kind of appreciate just how gnarly and how twisted this tree actually gets. And I don't know if you friends can pick up in the background, I'm going to try to zoom in on it, just how big some of these trunks in the barberry can get. Kind of zoom out a little bit, you can see it a little bit better. I'm going to walk over to another tree that was recently touched by the fire, and maybe you can get just a little better look at what I'm talking about. So by comparison you can see this one is not very tall, but to reiterate my point, you can see the young juniper trees growing right in among it. I'm going to try to talk close to the microphone. The wind's really beginning to pick up now, but I'm going to kind of pan and show you. You see there's a cedar tree, and as I go more this way you can kind of see there's a cluster of barberry trees right here. And I know the camera's not going to pick it up, but on the furthest edge right there you can see the juniper really, well, I don't know about how well you can see it, but you can kind of see the juniper tree at the end right there. So this is the wood that I'm going to use to make some gunpowder with. I guess only time will tell so how well it turns out. Okay, here we are. Once again, the moment of truth. Let's see how we did. Well, that was to be expected. I guess now I'll go to pulverizing this, and then we'll put it on the scale and see how it weighs out in grams compared to willow. Well, here we are once again. The jar on the left is the willow, and the jar on the right is the barberry. I guess we'll get it all mixed up, get it pucked and crushed, and we'll see how it reacts with the burn test. I wanted to interrupt right here for a moment to express a little bit of a cautionary note. If you're going to use your vise to compress the black powder into a puck, don't do what I did. If you have an immovable force, which is the back end of the vise and a movable force, which is the front end with the screw. If you use too much leverage, you might just end up peeling the back end of the vise off the base, which is what happened. So I decided to make my own press. Being of a cheap sort of fellow, I decided to take some of the scrap metal that I had laying around in my yard, since I'd been blacksmithing for decades and working metal for decades. This is what I came up with. What I have is some I-beam stock. Let me get around here and show it. Trailer tongue steel is all it really is. And I supported the base right here just in case I thought it was gonna bend this end. I actually originally made this for a 8-ton jack, but Harbor Freight didn't have any 8-ton jacks at the time, so I ended up purchasing a 12-ton jack, as you can readily see. Just 3/4 inch all thread with nuts that keep the all thread in place. And as you can tell, I don't know how well the camera can pick it up, but it makes very fine pucks. So once again, just kind of doing this as a precautionary for you friends that are going to try making your own black powder and using the vise as a press. You don't want to exert too much pressure, but this vise has worked out just perfect for what I need. Well, obviously it's time for the burn test. I've got my propane torch, got 20 grains of the black powder that was made with the barberry wood as the charcoal. So let's proceed with the test. Well, I would say that's pretty fast, but let me get set up with the 20 grains of the powder inside the trough, and we'll see what the difference is, if there is any. Stay tuned. Here we go, 20 grains, 3F, with the barberry as the charcoal. Once again, I would say that's pretty quick. Now let me try this again with the 4F. Okay, now the 4F. Well, I think most of you flintlock shooters would readily agree that's pretty quick. The other day I was thinking about this process and where I'm at now, about ready to do the testing of the black powder. It occurred to me that I had not done any side-by-side comparison volume-wise between the Juniper charcoal and the willow charcoal. And not having any Juniper charcoal to do that side-by-side comparison with, I am now going to be charring some Juniper. So when I get to that point in the process, pulverizing it, I will do a visual side-by-side comparison between the Juniper and the willow. So stay tuned. Once again, the charcoal on the left is willow, and the charcoal on the right is Juniper. And as we can see, there is a comparable similarity in volume between the willow and the juniper. And for the sense of all fairness, I know I had done a burn test previously regarding the juniper. That particular batch of juniper was screened down to 3F. So I took that batch of juniper and I put it back in my ball mill and recrushed it, pulverized it, got it down to the powder once again, and I'm actually in the process of making pucks so that when I go to test all of the gunpowders for efficiency in burning or how clean they burn, everything will be on a level playing field. So once again, the willow is on the left, the juniper is on the right, and as we can see, there's, you know, it's comparable. Juniper grows fast, and it's a very light wood. How it burns in a gun, well, only time's going to tell. So thanks for watching, and we will see you real soon.